hopefully it's clear. Ren says, I noticed the high-level websites do not have multi-level URL slugs. Example, treecare.com. Services trimming is not possible. Instead, you need to settle for treecare.com trimming. Shouldn't this affect site structure? No, not at all. That just affects URL structure. That does not affect site structure, and not even in the least bit. Now, there's two different types of silo structures. As you know, there's more than that, but there's two kind of types of silos, right? There's what's called a virtual silo, and it's called a physical silo. A physical silo is when you see it in a URL structure. So that would be like if you were using WordPress, that would be a category / post name permalink structure, right? So that's where you see it in the URL, the hierarchy of how the content is arranged through the URL structure. That's a physical silo. A virtual silo is the exact same thing, except it's just the post name permalink structure, right? So the slug is just the post name. It omits the category. So it would be domain.com or whatever the root domain is / post slug, whatever that slug is. It would omit any of the directories in between. So the category hierarchy or the page hierarchy. So remember, it doesn't always have to be pages or it doesn't have to be categories. It can just be a top level parent page and a child page, or it could be a category and a subcategory and then a post, etc. But with the virtual silo, it's still root domain / post slug. It omits all of the other um, directories within the URL. But you can still create the silo. It's all done through internal linking, right? So a physical silo, you see it in the URL. A virtual silo, you don't. But it's still a silo because of how everything is internally linked. So no, it doesn't affect site structure at all. I prefer the physical silo structure where I can see it in the URL. I've always preferred it that way, but it's not necessary. With a virtual silo, it can be accomplished. The exact same structure can be accomplished all done through internal linking. Okay. So, and by the way, have you tested that though? I've not. It's not that I don't believe you, but I did. I was going to pull open HighLevel and test with that. I've not tried to create that where you can have / and then a slug and then another / and another slug. Um, I would assume that you'd be able to do that, but maybe you've tested it. I've got HighLevel open and I was going to do it, but I don't want to. I'll test it on a test site, not a live site, and I'll play with that later. But anyways, in any case, like I said, a silo is developed through internal linking more than anything. Does that make sense? So part of the reason why, like for example, in WordPress, guys, think about this. If you set up a silo in WordPress so that you're using categories and subcategories, parent pages and child pages, right? You do all that, and then you publish posts and you place them into the subcategory, for example. Now you've got a URL structure that would be domain.com / top level category / subcategory / post name. You get it? But if you understand taxonomy structure in WordPress, guys, that is a kind of a back-end internal linking structure or scheme. Does that make sense? It's a way of through WordPress code of showing how the hierarchy of the content, where content is placed, that a post is placed within a subcategory or a category, right? And that's telling Google, and because of how the WordPress code and the taxonomies work in WordPress is in the back end, Google can see that post was placed within a category, right? Or a subcategory, either one, doesn't matter. So it's kind of a back end code level internal linking scheme. But on the public facing side of things, which is what we see on the web browser, right? That is all done through internal linking. So a silo structure, whether it's shown in the URL or not, if the silo is built in WordPress, if you have the physical silo, which is category / post name permalinks, you're going to see that hierarchy. But if you do a virtual silo, which is just a post name permalink, it's still the same hierarchy. The only thing, because it's still content placed in the same categories and everything else, it's just the displayed URL is different. That's it. It makes no difference whatsoever. It's all done. And because on the back end in the taxonomies, the structure is proper if you placed your content in the appropriate categories and everything. And then the internal linking is how you link both navigationally but also contextually from within the content. And I look at silo linking more about as contextual linking as not navigational linking. In other words, you can develop a silo through internal linking with contextual links within the main post body of the pages, if that makes sense. It's navigational links are treated differently than contextual links, right? They're weighted differently. So internal linking within a silo should be done contextually, right? So that means within the main post body of the pages or posts. And that is how you develop the silo, right? And so again, on a high level site without the kind of category structure and all that stuff, I don't think it's necessary. It's how you internally link.